Kenneth Powell and Koki scored their first Rangers goals of the season 6 second-half minutes apart to seal a 2-1 victory at Hull City on Tuesday night, making it 4 wins in a row from QPR's opening 4 league games of a calendar year for the first time since 2014. The R's have won just twice away from home this season prior to Plymouth Argyle last Saturday, but have now doubled their tally to 4 victories following a midweek visit to the MKM Stadium. And there must be something about the number 4 right now, because after an absolutely staggering turnaround over the past 13 games, that's also currently the exact same number of points between Marty Cifuentes' side and 6th place, which is completely and utterly insane to think about given how poorly we started this season. I'm Connor, aka Hoopsa. I make QPR match previews, reactions, interviews and features, so let's break down another fantastic result. And if you like what you see or hear, please consider liking and subscribing if you're watching on YouTube, or following and leaving a rating if you're listening in podcast form. London to Plymouth to London to Hull in the space of 3 days was always going to be unforgiving, and so I expected a fair bit of rotation here to manage tired legs. But to my surprise, Marty made just the one change to the starting lineup, with Ryan Colley coming in for Mickey Frey. Even our bench was practically identical save for Jake Clark-Salter, who despite being unused against Argyle, reportedly picked up a hip injury on Monday, meaning he didn't travel with the squad and was replaced by Elijah Dixon-Bonner. This one just really reiterates exactly why the club acted so quickly to get Ronnie Edwards in at the start of the window, but despite Morrison and Cook supposedly nearing returns, Jake Clark-Salter's absence meant that we were suddenly going into this game without a centre-back available on the bench. Now personally, I'm a big advocate for as much consistency as possible between games. All of the best performing teams in football tend to make as few changes as possible outside of injuries, but with just that one tweak, Rangers were expectedly a little bit lethargic in this first half. A sign of our continued improvement though is that 2 months ago, that tiredness would have meant we would have undoubtedly made mistakes and conceded goals. And that wasn't the case here. We might have started slowly, Hull had the bulk of the chances, but we still looked solid and we had some nice passages of play. We just didn't look as creative as we had against Plymouth. Rangers dealt the first attack on 4 minutes when Ronnie Edwards met a dangerous Powell corner delivery with a header, but he was denied at close range to prevent an early opener. For the next 15 minutes though, it was pretty much just Hull on the ball. It felt like they had a lot of space in the centre of the most threadbare pitch I've seen all season, which required Jonathan Varane to be everywhere all at once to put out fires, particularly out on the right-hand side to help out Jimmy. He did well to keep Harry Vaughan at bay on 8 minutes, but the winger was still able to tee up an unmarked Steven Alzate on the edge of the box, whose long-range effort would have been much more dangerous had he not sliced it. A minute later, Hull were back at it again with another move that showed just how easily they could play through us, with keeper Rushworth reacting well under pressure to put a good ball into midfield, and that ball was played quickly out to Vaughan once more, this time able to dance into our box and force a save from Nardi at his near post. The Tigers then produced a set piece straight out of the Rangers playbook from the resulting corner, with João Pedro nodding the ball on dangerously, but Edwards and Field did very well to deny 2 almost free headers at the back post. Pedro was nearly setting free for a 1v1 with Nardi a few minutes later, but he couldn't quite get on the end of an excellent ball in behind from Gustavo Puerta. We settled down a bit more over the next 10 minutes, Edwards once again really helping us to patiently build from the back and carry that ball into the middle. In general, I've noticed over the past 2 games we're playing with a much higher line in possession, so you can very much see why Ronnie was a target for us back in the summer. In midfield, we actually put together some really tidy moves in this half, but Chair, Smith and Colley had quiet appearances here and really struggled to get themselves involved too much or provide too much danger. Now I obviously love Colley, but he's a totally different footballer to Frey, and if we're being totally honest, he's probably not permanently a number 9. Needs must, but the team struggles to provide Ryan with the same kind of service as Mickey when he starts games, particularly away from home. Now obviously I completely understand resting Frey. We worked him into the ground earlier in the season, starting every game, and that came back to bite us soon enough. But we really do miss his presence when he doesn't start, and you can really see why Colley coming on after Frey has battled with the opposition backline for an hour tends to be the more successful approach. Really, it just reiterates how much we probably need a 3rd senior striker in that rotation. Our subdued attack meant that our other 2 opportunities of the first 45 came from Morgan Senior and Morgan Junior. Fox's on 26 minutes when he fancied a dig from range, a very fair attempt deflected wide for a corner, while Kieran's was a dangerous post-corner cross-come shot that bounced dangerously into the box and teasingly hit the right hand post. Hull looked lively again before half time, but Rangers defended well to keep the score 0-0 heading into the break. It was then all Hull again at the start of the second half, and with 3 efforts in quick succession, you could really start to see the fatigue setting in with Rangers, not only physical but mental, like when Nardi played the ball from a goal kick to an already marked Samfield on the edge of the box. He couldn't quite get his footing right and he was quickly dispossessed by Pedro, allowing Leeds loanee Gelhardt a shot in the box which Fox thankfully blocked, and he was quick to steer away Slater's effort a few seconds later. Thankfully then, by 57 minutes, Marty saw the need for fresh legs, with Chair and Colley making way for Saito and Lloyd. And my word, what a game-changing double substitution this was. The pair of them were so direct and so chaotic that their impact was instant, relieving us from that increasing Hull pressure and getting us back into their attacking third. Koki, for the first time in a while, was playing out on his natural wing on the left, which he quite visibly relished here. With his first involvement, he casually took down an Edwards diagonal on 60 minutes, pivoted and headed towards goal, playing a lovely flick onto an overlapping Powell into space, whose grounded delivery into the box found Smith free for a shot, but it was straight down the keeper's throat, and Morgan's angle was too tight to convert the spilled ball on the right. A couple of minutes later, it was Alfie's turn to cause trouble, and this time it would lead to a goal. Having looked lively but raw at the start of the season, he's quickly becoming a player who's looking better and better with every passing game. This guy battles for every ball, he hassles and rattles defenders, and more I'm seeing shades of Jamie Mackie in his play. So let's talk about the goal. Morgan found Lloyd with a lovely dinked ball over the top, which he carried into the box and dangerously cut back through the legs of Finlay Burns, which meant the late arriving Kenneth Powell looked set for an almost certain goal until Alfie Jones cleared the ball off the line. But Rangers were queuing up for it at the back, and after another blocked attempt from field, it deflected back to the feet of Kenny to rifle it into the top of the net. A scrappy one for sure, but I love to see how many of our players got stuck into this one, and we got the goal because of that. That much needed injection of energy that the subs had provided had worked an absolute treat, and with our next attack 6 minutes later, it was about to get even better. Now, we've seen Koki Saito trick his way past many defenders at the byline this season, but he's often such a selfless player that after gliding past Drama on the inside, never did I expect him to blast it into the roof of the net from the tightest angle you could possibly find on a football pitch. It was an absolute worldie of a goal. We've all been absolutely dying for this guy to get his first goal in a Rangers shirt, and if anyone can top that for our goal of the season, I look forward to seeing what it looks like. I'm just super pleased for him, and you could see what that meant to him and the rest of the team as well. He's worked incredibly hard this season, he's been played out position repeatedly at left back, right wing when needed, he's never fussed, he's spent some time out of the team lately, so to come on and play like this when needed and produce that is outstanding. They say never fall in love with a lone player, but it is much too late for that now. So it looked really quite comfortable for a short while after this, with Rangers' sudden 2-0 lead sucking some of the intensity out of the home side. That was until Marty's next double sub of Ashby and Madsen on for Smith and Morgan had pretty much the reverse effect of his first two. To put it simply, Madsen couldn't touch the ball, and Ashby, actually playing as a right winger instead of a right back, which should have in theory been less risky for him, couldn't stop giving it away. Madsen didn't necessarily do anything as visibly calamitous as Ashby, but Lloyd losing his rag when he didn't fill space on the wing to mop up a loose ball pretty much epitomised his input this season. Ashby, on the other hand, just looks completely devoid of any confidence that he ever had, repeatedly overcomplicating things and losing the ball. On 85 minutes, those repeated mistakes then allowed Hull City to build an attack pretty much from nowhere, with which Gelhardt would dink a cheeky half volley over Nardi from range, giving them a route back into the game that they really should never have had. And with Hull now applying the pressure for an equaliser, Cifuentes then did something I can't remember a QPR manager doing, at least for a very long time, and that was to sub a sub. Ashby got the hook on 92 minutes and Colback was sent out to see the game out instead, which he did, thankfully. That is a very clear message indeed. It started to get pretty tense at the end, with only a pretty generous free kick for Powell in our box taking the sting out of City's last dangerous looking attack of the game, but Rangers got the job done. So we made things a bit tough on ourselves at the end, but once again, what a result. That's 4 league wins in a row, 2 on the spin away from home, just 1 loss in 13, and 28 points since the November international break, the most of any team in the division, at least until Leeds and Burnley have played on Wednesday night. And when you consider that Marty Cifuentes has achieved that in a spell of this many injuries, and when his options to change games are as contrasting as those first 4 subs showed, it's absolutely mind-boggling. He is a remarkable manager. He is the best part about supporting QPR right now, and he will be getting plenty of attention once again in the summer, regardless of where we end up in the table, because to turn things around as drastically as this, to a point where getting near or into the playoffs isn't even that far-fetched. It's just not normal. Something I'm so impressed by, and he did this last season too, is how he utilises virtually all of the playing squad. Frey, for example, would have been the most obvious substitution to most fans, but he sees Alfie Lloyd as a genuinely viable option, and he once again completely changed the game. That decision won this game for us, and we now have a 100% rested Mickey Frey ready for Sheffield Wednesday at the weekend. I mean, the fact that we're doing this with our third choice centre-back and a lone centre-back in the side says it all. The only real negative you can find from this performance, despite looking a bit tired, which is to be expected, is the Madsen and Ashby situation, but it does show that 1 or 2 more additions before the end of the window could go a very long way in securing our place in the top half of the table, if we have the headroom to make those kind of moves. Regardless, I'm loving watching this football team right now, which is a stark contrast to how most of us felt at the first half of the season, so long may it continue. Right, that's all from me. Thank you so much for tuning in as usual. Please let me know what you thought about this match in the comments below. If you're new to Hoopsa and you've enjoyed this match reaction, please consider following, liking, subscribing, all of that good stuff. It really helps me to grow what I'm doing. Thanks very much, and I'll hopefully see you in my next one for my Sheffield Wednesday match preview. Cheers!